Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome in to Tider Insider TV, brought to you, as we just heard, by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. I'm Gary Harris, WVOA 23 Sports Director. He's Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, and we are ready, Rod. It is not just a game week, it is a big game week. Let's jump right in and review where we're at and look forward to where we're going. The Alabama Crimson Tide opened up the 2023 campaign this past Saturday evening at home with a dominating 56-7 win over Middle Tennessee. A sold-out crowd in Bryant-Denny Stadium watched the Tide win its 21st consecutive home opener. It's the fourth best, or 21st consecutive home game, and they also have a long streak of home opening wins as well. Jalen Milroe, making just his second career start at quarterback, did something that no other quarterback had ever done at Alabama. This really surprised me, Rodney. I didn't realize this until I saw the stat after the game. With all the dual threat quarterbacks that have come through here, he's the first to ever throw for 3 touchdowns and run for 2 in the same game, and all he accounted for 242 yards of total offense and the 5 touchdowns. 8 different receivers caught at least one pass, with Isaiah Bonds leading the way with 5 receptions for 76 yards. On defense, the Tide was led by Caleb Downs with 8 tackles, and the linebacker Lawson had 7 tackles and a sack. And, of course, it's going to get more difficult beginning right away this Saturday night at 6 o'clock against number 11 Texas. And let's review this game, Rodney, before we look ahead to the Longhorns. Let's start with Milroe. All eyes were on the Alabama quarterback, and I'm not going to say that he played flawlessly because there's things that he can work on, but he played very well, and he did what he was asked to do, and that was not turn the ball over. He was good in the red zone. He led the team to a 42-0 lead midway through the third quarter. They were able to get him out of there and get Buckner and Simpson in the game. So all in all, I thought Jalen Milroe was very good. He was named the co-SEC Offensive Player of the Week.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it. The not turning the ball over, protected the ball really well, which coming in was a little bit of a concern, I know, among fans because of the game against Texas A&M last year. But he did a fantastic job of that. Gary threw the ball really well, obviously threw the ball downfield. You know, I think, Gary, the way you have to win nowadays, you have to be able to strike down the field. He showed that, had 3 big throws down the field. And guess what? We talked about the receivers all camp long. There were some struggles with some drop passes. We didn't have one drop pass. It was a really good sign.
Coach Saban has said all through preparations for that first game that the competition at quarterback would continue as all positions continue to compete into the season. Clearly, both the other quarterbacks, Buckner and Simpson, as I said, looked good as well. Both scored touchdowns. But it looks like, at least for now, that Milroe has solidified his status as the starter.
Yeah, did a really nice job. I mean, obviously in the opener, and then, like you said, you know, we got Texas coming up this week. You know, the other 2 guys, Buckner and Ty Simpson, got in. I thought they did really well. But right now, I mean, I think Jalen Milroe took a big step.
He and Terry and Arnold, the cornerback, and several others have talked about having the term LANK is kind of their theme, and it stands for let the naysayers know. Arnold brought that up. Milroe didn't, but he was asked about it, and I don't think he's playing to prove anybody wrong, but at the same time, I think he's aware, like most players are, of what had been said about him, and I'm pretty sure that he was motivated by that.
Well, look, I mean, again, I think all players in his position are going to probably be motivated. This is an opportunity for him. This is the opportunity he's waited for. Gary, he's been here 3 years now. He's finally getting that chance that he's been waiting on. And look, he's prepared a long time, and I think that's really the main thing that was on Jalen Milroe's mind, was to do what he needed to do, to be prepared, and to carry out his assignments, execute really well, and like you said, protect the ball.
On the other side, if Milroe was the star on offense, then it had to be Caleb Downs and Deontay Lawson on defense. And Downs, the true freshman, lived up to the hype.
Yeah, I think Caleb Downs, obviously, we've talked about him a lot this summer, that we really expected him to make an immediate impact. And, you know, he really did. He did a fantastic job. And like you said, he led the team in tackles, and Deontay Lawson was all over the field. You know, again, he's kind of waited his turn too, so it's a really big start for Deontay Lawson.
And the kicking game was very good too, both return and kicking, and the specialist as well.
Yeah, Burnham averaged 46 yards a kick, so he was off to a great start. We talked about his improvement, too, throughout the camp, and it showed in this game.
All right, let's move on, Rodney, because it's now time for Coach Talk. And Alabama wins by 49 against Middle Tennessee on Saturday night. But the score is impressive, but that's just part of the story, because all fall camp, Alabama had talked about being more physical on both sides of the ball. And Nick Saban was asked about if he was pleased with the Tide's physicality.
No, I was pleased with that. I certainly, that's what we've asked them to do, and I think they competed well in the game. I think they played hard in the game. I think they were trying to be physical. They played with really good toughness, and their team plays hard and their team plays with toughness. So I think we certainly matched that, and I think that was something that was a real positive for us.
And Rod, another big positive. Penalties. Last year, the Alabama Crimson Tide averaged 7 a game. They were near the bottom in terms, I think they were 129 in the country. Just 2 penalties, one on offense and one on defense Saturday night.
It was a really good start. I mean, you kind of compare it to the start they had last year when they had a lot of penalties very early in the season. It kind of carried on throughout the season, but no penalties. No turnovers, +2 in the turnover margin. Again, I think it's a really good start, Gary. We saw, a team that looked disciplined. You talked about the defense. You talked about the physicality, Gary. There weren't a lot of mistakes. It was very impressive.
Yeah, last year 129 out of 131 in terms of penalties in the FBS. Just 2, though, on Saturday night. Coordinator, check. Let's start with offensively with Tommy Rees. What did you think of the job he did?
Look, I thought Tommy Rees put him in great positions to have success. I mean, I really did. So, to me, he gets a check plus.
And Kevin Steele, his defense in Miami last year got lit up by MTSU for 45 points. Yeah. Players make a difference.
A little bit of difference. Yeah. Look, I think they look fundamentally sound to me. I thought they tackled really well. You didn't see a bunch of confusion. It looked like there was a lot of cohesiveness, good understanding out there, and guys were in position to make plays.
All right, we have the Middle Tennessee game in the books, and now we're going to look ahead. Still to come on Tider Insider Television, we share our thoughts going into the prime time matchup this coming weekend against Texas. And former Alabama offensive coordinator Steve Sarkisian is now the Texas head coach, and he talks about what he views as his biggest concern about facing the Crimson Tide. And we'll also be getting to your phone calls, emails, and tweets just a little bit later on in the program. The phone number, as always, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. There's the email address. You can even tweet at us. Use the hashtag TITV. And we'll be right back with a show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. The one, the only Tider Insider TV is coming right back.
Not really, just next game feeling. But, yeah, I mean, it's from Texas, so a lot of Texas people feel a little way about it. So I got a lot of family watching us.
And welcome back to TITV, presented by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. There is a lot of crossover between Alabama and Texas. Jace McClellan, Jalen Milroe, and 6 other Alabama players are from the state of Texas. That's 8 total players. Plus, head coach Nick Saban is going to be facing off against yet another one of his former assistants in Longhorns head coach Steve Sarkisian. And Texas has 4 coaches on its staff that coached at Alabama. There's a couple of, one transfer from Alabama. There's another player from high school in Alabama, Rodney. So these 2 programs know each other well just because of all of the crossover among the staffs and the team. But let's talk about Texas after beating Rice 37-10. Quinn Ewers finished with 3 touchdown passes and a touchdown run. Texas started a little bit slow in this one, but they took over. Their defense up front was menacing. This is a team with a great wide receiving core, tremendous running backs. We know about the quarterback defensively, big and physical up front. This is a team that is certainly capable of coming in here and winning.
Yeah, I'm very impressed watching them. Again, not really looking at the competition necessarily that it was Rice, but you just look at Texas on the hoof defensively. I think they've made a lot of progress. You look at them up front. I think that defensive line, it's typical Bo Davis, who used to be here, of course, great defensive line coach. I think that's a big area where they've made a lot of improvement. I think you look at the physicality, the speed, the athleticism of their front 7, the way they covered in the secondary. I'm really impressed I think that's a big area, Gary, where they've made maybe the most improvement over the last 3 years.
You've got Bo Davis, the defensive line coach, as you mentioned, Jeff Banks, assistant head coach and special teams coordinator and tight ends coach, Kyle Flood, offensive coordinator and offensive line coach, and A.J. Milroe, co-offensive coordinator, all spent time on the Alabama staff. Let me ask you that about that real quick, because I had somebody tell me that was a former player that everybody will say, well, Sark knows Saban, Saban knows Sark, but Saban knows Sark as his assistant. Sark knows Saban as a head coach. He knows every tendency in this program. Yeah, Saban knows Sark, but he doesn't know exactly how he operates as a head coach. Do you think that's an advantage for Texas?
No, I really don't. I mean, I think there's probably, they've studied, Sarkisian, what he did here, what he's done in other places, what he did last year. I think they probably have a pretty good idea of each other. So I don't think it's really an advantage. No.
Rodney, just one game in, Alabama has got the deal possibly with a couple of injuries. Defensive backs Jalen Key and Malachi Moore went out of the Middle Tennessee game. Coach Saban said on Monday that they are day-to-day. He'll have an update tomorrow if they can't go. That's a good thing about Alabama in that back seven. They've got some depth, particularly in the secondary, with Earl Little Jr. and Christian Story, both of whom came in and played pretty well on Saturday night.
They really did. They had good springs. They had good camps. They've got a lot of depth back there. Obviously, the other two, Malachi Moore and Jalen Key, played really, really well. And, Gary, I would think, based on some things I hear, I do think Malachi Moore's likely to play. I really don't know about the status of Jalen Key, so I'm looking forward to what Coach Saban says tomorrow.
All right, you're watching that video from last year's game where Alabama was taken right down to the wire before pulling it out there in Austin on a brutally hot day. Good news is the weather's supposed to be great this Saturday evening. Temperatures getting down into the 70s for the game, and not that hot during the day either. On his weekly press conference yesterday, Coach Sark was asked about the biggest challenge of defending Alabama, especially following Jalen Milroe's breakout performance in the season opener.
How do we control and contain the quarterback with his legs? The rest of the offense is the offense which you see, and it's good, and it's very well designed, and they've got really good pieces. But the quarterback run, and they're going to run the quarterback. It's not a secret. What they did in week one is we're going to get something different, and that's okay. But making sure that we are accounting for number 4 and all of the quarterback run games is going to be a real key to the drill.
Ronnie, let me ask you about that, because that is what Milroe brings to the game. We saw in the first half against Middle, McLaughlin had a terrible snap. On the ground, got past Milroe, looked like it was going to be a 10, 12, 15-yard loss. He picks it up, breaks a couple tackles, takes it for a touchdown. Those unscripted plays, he's very dangerous.
Yes, he's dangerous on all of them. Look, I think you're right, Gary, but it's going to be interesting to see just how different they really are offensively, because I know that Nick Saban likes his quarterbacks to distribute the ball to the playmakers. Jalen Milroe certainly did that in this last game, be able to distribute the ball to the playmakers, get the ball in the running back's hands. They've got a really strong offensive line. Now to be able to implement him possibly more as a runner. This offense, it's going to be really interesting to watch to see how it evolves over the course of the season, because I do think that all of those things are going to come into play, and I do think that hopefully we'll continue to see the passing game kind of expand a little bit. Wasn't a lot of intermediate passes thrown, so I expect to see more of that as we move along. Yeah,
let me ask you real quickly about the offensive line for Alabama matching up against that big physical, experienced and talented Texas defensive front.
It's a real challenge. I mean, I hope Cole Kubelik's right. I mean, he said this is the biggest, baddest offensive line he's ever seen. Well, look, they're going to have a challenge, because those Texas defensive linemen, Alfred Collins, Trevonde Sweat, Byron Murphy, these guys are really, really big. I'm talking 315, 320 plus. They're strong, they're fast, they're very athletic, and Bo Davis has them playing with a lot of aggressiveness.
Yeah, Bo Davis, what a defensive line coach. Well, still to come on TITV, we're going to have our score predictions for the big game on Saturday night. Plus, Nick Dunlap continues to prove himself as an outstanding amateur golfer. He's soon to be a professional, but he had the Walker Cup to take care of first. Him and his Team USA teammates will give you that update. And up next, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. There you see the information right there on your screen, 205-348-9882. Go ahead and give us a call, Tider Insider Nation. We want to hear from you. We'll be right back after this. Well, Team USA staged a dramatic comeback at St. Andrews on the final day of the Walker Cup Sunday to retain their title against Great Britain and Ireland. Despite trailing by 3 points after the first day, Team USA's captain Mike McCoy took a gamble by pairing their top 2 players, Vanderbilt's Gordon Sargent and Alabama's Nick Dunlap, in the morning foursomes, which paid off as they secured a huge victory. They continued their impressive performance in the afternoon single session with Alabama's Dunlap making a birdie putt on the 18th hole to secure a crucial half point. USA retains the Walker Cup, and Nick Dunlap's incredible summer of great amateur golf continues. Highlighted, of course, by the U.S. Amateur Championship. Welcome back to TITV. Let's get out on the phone lines. They're lined up for us. First up is John over in Cordova. Hey, good evening, John.
Hey, how y'all doing? I was just wondering, after what we've seen with the quarterbacks, what did you like the most, and what do you think they need to improve on going into Texas?
Rodney, what you think?
No, look, I like the way Milroe handled himself. I thought he was really calm. I thought he was really collected for the most part. That was a good sign. You know, that Texas A&M game, that first start he had last year, there was talk about a lot of anxiety, but I didn't sense any of that at all, Gary. I thought he was a very confident player in that opener, and I just think he needs to continue on that. I think he threw the ball well. I'm excited to see, like we've mentioned, him get more runs and have some opportunity to spread the ball around.
All right, let's get to Rick and Brent. Hey, Rick, what's going on, man?
I'm fine. How are y'all tonight?
Doing very well.
Yes, what is Alabama's record against Texas? I know that Coach Bryant, I don't believe, ever beat Texas while at Alabama.
He didn't. Texas and Notre Dame. It's 2-7. Bad news is it's 2-7. Good news is Alabama's won the last 2.
And they had a tie, right?
Yeah, 2-7-1. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, trust me, I grew up in Texas, so I know the record really, really well. It's, Rick, they had some really close games, too. You know, there was some games that went back and forth, and even last year, I mean, you look at that, 20-19. So they've had some really, it's been a really close series.
Yeah, and speaking of close ones that will always gnaw at Alabama fans was that Orange Bowl when Namath got stopped by Tommy Novus on the quarterback sneak.
That's right.
Namath said he scored, and Alabama did win half the national championship. That allowed Arkansas to get the other half, and Alabama lost that. And you know, the Cotton Bowls, a couple of Cotton Bowls. So it's been, but lately Alabama's had the better program, and we'll see if that continues. All right, let's get to an email, and it is our email question of the day. And it's brought to you by KDM Service Corporation, serving your family like our family. All right, here is the email question of the day. And it is, do you think Ty Simpson will transfer? It's from, well, Ty and Hoover. I don't think that that's the same Ty, because Ty's not from Hoover. But I don't know. I think it's way too early to speculate on any of that.
A lot of things can change over the course of the season. Ty may be a key figure before the whole season's over with. Tyler Buckner could be a key figure before this is all said and done. I agree with Gary. I mean, I think it's really early, and you know, Gary, the people I've talked to that know Ty really well say he's all in right now.
Yeah, it needs to be. All those quarterbacks, like you said, they all played well, and all it takes is one injury or one bad game. You never know what can happen. All right, still to come on Tider Insider Television. We have got much more, including our score predictions, and we'll get to more of your phone calls, emails, and tweets. You see the information right there on your screen, 205-348-9882. Go ahead and give us a call. We'll be right back. Alabama soccer got up to number 5 in the country, but a couple of draws later, better than losses, but still 2 draws later against Miami and Samford, and the Tide has dropped down to number 12. Still a good team. They'll be at Southern Mississippi on Thursday. Kickoff down in Hattiesburg against the Golden Eagles of Southern Miss is set for 4 p.m. All right, welcome back into TITV with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Let's jump out on the phone lines. First up is BT right here in Tuscaloosa. Hey, BT.
Hey, Gary and Rodney. How are y'all doing?
Doing great.
What I want to say is, Gary, about the game, I like the way we approached the game early, and, you know, we played well, and defense played really well, and we just got to continue to move, build momentum in every game.
Absolutely, BT. I agree with everything you said. I like the approach, very businesslike, went out and took care of business. But you're right, you got to keep getting better. If you don't improve, then somewhere along the line you'll stumble, and you hope you get better this week in preparation for that game against Texas, right?
Yeah, I thought it was a great start. I think we could sense there's a lot of chemistry on this team. So I agree with you, BT. It was a great start.
All right, let's go to Alabaster and talk to Putty. Hey, Putty, good evening.
Hey, Rodney. How y'all doing?
Doing well.
Gary. So I was at the game, and it seemed to me that the defense was much faster. Even the backups were faster. And I just wondered if y'all saw the same thing, and then what y'all thought was the difference from last year.
Yeah, Putty, we did, and I don't know if they're any faster. I think they're more decisive. I think that I don't know that the players have gotten any faster, but I thought they looked like they were more dialed in and knew what they wanted to do. Like Gene Stallings has always said, defensive football, sight, movement, and contact. And they were seeing the play, they were getting there, and they were tackling people when they got there.
Yeah. And I understand. I think playing faster is probably the way I would put it. I think that is true. And, we talked about that on this show many, many times leading up to the season. We felt like Kevin Steele would do some things, maybe simplify some calls that would allow the players defensively to play with a little bit more confidence, play faster, not have to think quite as much. And I really believe that's what we saw.
Yeah, they played fast, as you said. David in Northport, we got about 30 seconds. David, go ahead.
Hey, guys, I have a question about scheduling, but it's pretty long-winded. It's about the home and homes and why we play at the away game first and the home game second, and how it's an advantage this year about what happened with the band at Texas last year. And does this policy go all the way back to the mid-'90s with what happened between Coach Stallings and the North Carolina State coach?
All right, David, I think the scheduling home and home just kind of works out that way sometime. I do think there have been schedules where Alabama played a home game first before going out there. The band does go back to last year, Rodney. Alabama couldn't take its band because of the seating situation, and now turnabout's fair play. Texas is going to be in the upper deck.
The question is, Bevo going to be here?
I don't know. We'll find out. All right, we'll be back with our predictions right after this. Prediction time, and we got to go fast. Rodney, lead us off.
Well, look, I think it's going to be a really, really tough game, but I love the chemistry I sense on this team, the attitude that they play with. I don't think Texas is coming into Tuscaloosa and beating Alabama 28-24.
I agree with you. In fact, I think Alabama's defense is going to shine and make a statement against Quinn Ewers and that Texas offense. I got Bama winning by double digits, 27-17. We'll find out on Saturday night. That's going to do it for Tider Insider TV. Thanks for joining us, everybody. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris, and it's going to be a great week. Good night.